imagine a vehicle. But it's so advanced, it isn't made of steel or carbon fiber or any kind of rocket fuel.
Right.
It's made entirely of pure light, of geometry, and of consciousness itself. It's described as the ultimate interdimensional travel machine.
And the most incredible part is that, according to this body of work, this highly complex vehicle is already built. It's right around you, right now.
Today, we are undertaking a true deep dive into one of the most compelling and, I have to say, one of the most surprisingly precise spiritual concepts, the Merkaba.
It really is. This is a concept that demands we bridge the language of, ancient scripture with the language of physics.
Yeah.
It's a fusion.
Absolutely. Our mission today is to unpack a wealth of source material on the Merkaba. We're moving far beyond just recognizing the symbol, that intricate six-pointed three-dimensional star, to really understand its mechanics.
The precise mechanics.
Yeah.
Its history, which is, well, it's secret. It can be dangerous going back to
Yeah.
ancient Egyptian and Hebrew mysticism.
And then we'll bring it forward to its powerful modern conceptualization as a literal energy vehicle, one that's used for spiritual ascension and even planetary co-creation.
At its absolute core, the Merkaba is described as a three-dimensional light body, an energy field that surrounds the human form.
And it's composed of two, what are they?
Tetrahedrons?
Two counter-rotating tetrahedrons. And our task today is to explain exactly what that shape is, how that differential rotation actually works, and crucially, why its proponents claim this is the single most important tool available for achieving personal sovereignty and ultimately global transformation.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're looking at an archetype that doesn't just borrow from physics, geometry, and consciousness. It claims to fuse them all into one highly precise, actionable system. To really get our heads around the scope of the Merkaba, we have to start with the name, the etymology. Because the word itself has these fascinating dual origins. One is, ancient and secretive, and the other is much more modern and instructional. And together, they really define the vehicle's entire purpose. That's absolutely right. We have to start with the Hebrew context. The term there is Merkava, or Mer-Ka-Ba.
And that means?
It translates directly to chariot or throne. This is rooted so deeply in the ancient prophetic traditions, specifically referencing the terrifying and magnificent divine chariot throne of God that's described so vividly in the book of Ezekiel.
And when you read Ezekiel's account, chapter 1, it is not a cozy, comfortable description.
Not at all?
It's a whirling storm, it's fire, these four living creatures, and the famous wheels within wheels. It gives the whole concept a very specific theological weight. It's about external transport, a direct face-to-face connection with the divine.
Precisely. It symbolizes the vessel for the Shekinah, the divine presence, or it's the means for the soul's journey to the divine realm.
So it implies movement, external movement to an external holy place.
Yes, but the modern definition completely reframes this. It shifts the journey from external transport to internal transformation. And this shift is actually codified by breaking the name down using Egyptian syllables. Merkaba.
And this is where that engineering precision really starts to come in, right? It defines the function of the vehicle, component by component.
Yes. So Mer refers to two things. First, the specific geometry we mentioned, but also these counter-rotating fields of light. This is the propulsion.
The engine of the vehicle.
The engine, exactly. Not visible light, but a fluid, highly organized, energetic medium.
And then Ka.
Ka is the spiritual component. It's often translated as the individual spirit or even their personal interpretation of reality. Their subtle energy body, it's the intelligence, the driver, it's the software running the whole thing.
And Ba would be the vessel itself.
Ba is traditionally the physical body, or, in some interpretations, the personality or soul aspect that interacts with physical reality. It's the hardware.
So the synthesis is a light spirit body system, a chariot of light.
Exactly, and that represents internal integration. It's about ensuring that consciousness doesn't just ascend and leave the physical vessel behind, but actually transfigures the body itself into a higher frequency, into a light body.
I have to pause there because the critics you mentioned later in the source material, they challenge this specific linguistic breakdown.
They do.
If Ba might mean personality or a soul aspect rather than literally body, doesn't that sort of unmoor the modern definition from physical reality?
That's a great question, and it's a valid critique. The sources address it by emphasizing the syncretic nature of the modern practice. It's a synthesis.
So it's a deliberate choice.
It is. While the ancient Egyptian concept of Ba was complex, it was often depicted as a human-headed bird, representing the soul's ability to travel between realms. The modern synthesis shows the most practical definition for their spiritual technology. The goal is ascension with the physical experience intact.
So they emphasize the body component, or at least the energy body that's anchored to the physical form.
Exactly. It's an interpretation built for a specific purpose for the needs of current human evolution.
Okay, so now we get to the actual blueprint, the geometry. When we talk Merkaba, we're talking about the star tetrahedron. If I'm a visual learner, what am I actually picturing?
You are picturing the most important structural element of this entire system, the star tetrahedron. It's also called the stellated octahedron, or stella octangula. It's an incredibly stable, beautiful shape.
And how is it built?
It's constructed by perfectly interlaying two regular tetrahedra. So just think of two three-sided pyramids onto one another.
Okay.
And they share one common central point. One point's up, one point's down.
So if we take the two-dimensional Star of David, this is that iconic symbol, but extended out into 3 dimensions.
That's the perfect visualization.
Yes.
Yes. And it's one of the basic Platonic solids, which suggests it has this fundamental universal significance.
It does. I mean, the Platonic solids are said to be the building blocks of the universe. The tetrahedron, for instance, is traditionally associated with the element of fire.
And by using two interlocking tetrahedra, the Mer-Ka-Ba geometry embodies this fundamental polarity, this balance.
Let's break that polarity down. Which pyramid is which?
So the upward pointing tetrahedron represents the masculine, the solar, the celestial energy. It's projective, and it draws power down from the higher dimensions, from the heavens.
Okay, and the other?
The downward pointing tetrahedron embodies the feminine, the lunar, the earthly energy. It's receptive, and it pulls power up from the core of the planet.
So the geometry itself is a perfect, self-contained symbol of balance. It's heaven and earth, male and female, light and dark, all unified around a single center point.
That unification is absolutely the key. The structure represents the merging of the microcosm. It's you, the individual, with the macrocosm, the universe.
And proponents argue this shape isn't arbitrary. It's not just a cool symbol.
Not at all. It's tied directly into fundamental cosmic blueprints that are encoded within all of creation. It links directly to the proportions you find in the flower of life and the tree of life.
And the source material goes even deeper, doesn't it? It claims the Merkaba field itself originates from the first 8 cells formed after conception.
Yes, that these cells settle at the base of the spine and serve as the energetic root chakra foundation for both our physical and our spiritual development. It's inherent to human design.
So it's not a thing we have to build. It's a thing we have to remember and activate. It's already there, just waiting for the ignition key.
That's the entire premise.
Okay, moving to the history, it's really crucial to trace how this concept evolved, because the modern practice is, well, it's such a departure from its ancient predecessors.
It really is.
Let's start in Egypt, around 3000 BCE.
We start in Egypt, where the Merkaba was not a common concept at all. It was an intensely practical, highly guarded technology. It was taught only within the highest levels of the mystery schools.
Why so much secrecy? Why the rigorous practice?
The Egyptian understanding was profoundly practical. The sources state that the pharaohs and the highest priests used this light technology for 2 very specific things: protection and navigation.
Navigation work.
During spiritual journeys,
Yeah.
especially those concerning the transition to the afterlife. Merkaba was the mechanism used to protect the Ba, the personality or soul, and the Ka, the spirit double, during that journey. It ensured the consciousness could access higher knowledge and connect with the deities without getting, lost or disintegrated.
So it was a spiritual life raft. Or maybe a kind of sophisticated GPS for the afterlife.
Exactly. It was a technology for interdimensional travel. And to elaborate on the architectural links you see in the sources,
The pyramids.
the pyramids, the material posits that the geometric precision of the Great Pyramids wasn't just for entombment. They were designed as massive geometric resonators.
So they amplify the energy.
They acted as energetic focal points, amplifying the subtle energy required for these high-level Merkaba-related initiations and meditative rituals. The king's chamber, for example, is theorized to be positioned specifically to maximize the flow of energy required for this interdimensional work.
Okay, so then in parallel, far to the east, we find the concept anchoring itself in ancient Judaism through Merkava mysticism.
Yes, and this tradition, which flourished between about 100 BCE and 1000 CE, is far more intense, I'd say terrifying and dangerous than the Egyptian version.
It's centered entirely on the attempt to replicate or witness Ezekiel's vision, right?
Entirely. For these mystics, the Merkava was a literal fiery vehicle used for a visionary ascent to the heavenly realms to encounter the throne of God.
Now, in Ezekiel's vision, the geometry he describes is cubic or square. It's the foundation of the throne. It's not the star tetrahedron we see today. Do the sources address that difference?
They do. The mystics focused less on the precise star tetrahedron shape and more on the dynamic, complex structure of the vision. The wheels within wheels, the Ophanim, and the angelic beings, the cherubim.
So the wheels within wheels could be a precursor to the idea of counter-rotating fields.
That's how modern proponents see it. A complex dynamic machine, not just a static star. The point was the rotation and the complex structure needed for dimensional travel.
The mystics who did this were called the Merkava, descenders to the chariot. Why that name? It seems like a contradiction.
The paradox is in the method. They use these complex rituals, like placing their head between their knees, chanting divine names, reciting secret hymns, to descend into a deep meditative or trance state.
And only from there could they begin the ascent.
Only from that altered state could they begin their ascent through the 7 celestial spheres, or the Hecalot, the palaces.
Let's talk about those 7 palaces, because that's the structure of the journey.
The Hecalot literature describes a frightening journey through these 7 spheres. Each palace was guarded by terrifying, massive angelic gatekeepers. And to pass, the mystic had to possess highly specific, precise esoteric knowledge.
Like what?
The correct hymns, the exact names of the guardians, and the proper seals or passwords. One mistake, and you were done.
And the danger wasn't just conceptual. The sources suggest it was actually life-threatening.
Absolutely. The warnings were explicit and stark. The risk was sensory overload from the sheer intensity of the divine light and sound.
So what would happen to them?
Practitioners who were impure, unprepared, or who mispronounced a single divine name risked being scorched by fire, dissolved, or driven instantly mad. One source even describes some practitioners dissolving into a puddle of flesh upon failing a trial.
Wow.
This knowledge was fiercely guarded, reserved only for the most mature, purified disciples.
So we have this clear trajectory.
Hmm.
From a royal Egyptian technology for the afterlife to this highly restricted, high-risk Jewish mystical practice designed for elite visionaries.
And that esoteric knowledge later wove itself into the broader structure of Kabbalistic cosmology, linking the Merkaba conceptually to the Sephirah, the 10 emanations on the tree of life.
Providing a kind of map.
A map for the soul's journey back to source. And then later still, in Hasidic Judaism, the interpretation softened and became more metaphorical, a symbol for achieving deep inner psychological harmony and balance. The journey became an internal one.
And the modern story, as you mentioned, is really a story of democratization.
It is.
Largely driven by one key figure, Drunvalo Melchizedek.
Indeed. Melchizedek popularized the concept in the late 20th century. He merged the Egyptian Merkaba concept, the star tetrahedron geometry, and concepts from Mayan and other indigenous traditions.
And his revolutionary act was taking this secretive, high-risk practice and transforming it into the systematic, disciplined 17-breath technique we know today.
That shift in accessibility is profound. He took a high-risk, mystical vision quest and essentially repackaged it as an accessible, universal spiritual technology.
It was presented as a fundamental birthright, something accessible to anyone with an open heart willing to commit to the daily practice.
But this is precisely where we have to apply that critical scrutiny, as the source material itself suggests we should.
Let's go back to those challenges. We have to press on the validity of this synthesis. Isn't this modern construct essentially creating a new technology and then retroactively fitting it to ancient texts, even when the geometry and the language don't perfectly align?
That is the core academic critique. The star tetrahedron, while geometrically perfect, is not explicitly defined in Ezekiel's vision, which spoke of cubical or square structures. And as we discussed, the specific Mer-Ka-Ba breakdown is viewed as linguistically imprecise by some scholars.
So what is it then?
The sources acknowledge that this is not a recovery of a single, pure ancient text. They call it a syncretic archetype.
A syncretic archetype. So a powerful new form of spiritual technology that's built from the fragments of older independent traditions.
Yes, and adapted specifically for the needs and the spiritual understanding of the modern era. An era that's, obsessed with mechanical precision and accessible step-by-step instructions.
Exactly. The precision of the 17-breath technique provides a modern structured pathway that ancient mystics, who often relied on years of devotion and just getting into trance states, might not have needed.
So the modern Merkaba is essentially the geometric map for achieving the effect of the ancient chariot ascent, but using a codified modern protocol.
Okay, now we enter the engine room. If this is a vehicle, we need to understand the nuts and bolts. how it interfaces with the human body, how those geometric fields actually move.
Right, the mechanics. The foundational principle is that the geometry is anchored perfectly to the human form. If you stand in that Vitruvian man, pose arms outstretched, feet together, your physical body fits precisely inside the star tetrahedron structure.
And where are the physical anchoring points for this vast geometric shape?
The sources are highly specific on this. The base is the upward pointing. The solar tetrahedron sits horizontally right at the level of your knees.
Okay.
And the base of the downward pointing, the earth tetrahedron, sits horizontally at the level of your shoulders.
That seems a little counterintuitive at first, but if you think about it, the bases are the widest part of the energy field, so it centers the structure on the densest part of the body.
It creates a very stable geometric foundation. And then, piercing this whole structure, is the central channel, the pronatube. It's described as a vertical crystalline tube running through the very center of your body. From the apex of the top tetrahedron, about 1 hand length above your head, to the apex of the bottom one hand length below your feet.
We've talked about energy meridians before, but this sounds different. This sounds like the primary conduit, the energetic superhighway.
It is the main conduit for life force. Its whole function is to draw prana simultaneously from the cosmos above and the earth below, and then mix these energies at a specific point.
The navel for ordinary breathing, the sternum for Merkaba activation.
Right, and the source material emphasizes this tube has to be clean and unblocked for the activation to work, which is why those first 6 breaths are all about cleansing.
And the diameter of this tube is personalized. It's based on the person's own hand measurement. That's such a strange, precise detail.
It really speaks to the idea that this technology is bioresonant. The diameter is set to the size of the circle that's formed by your own thumb and middle finger touching. It's a precise geometric interface tailored to your body to ensure the proper volume of energy can flow through.
Okay, let's get to the propulsion system, the Mer. The sources say 3 star tetrahedrons occupy the same space around the body when this thing is activated.
That's correct. The first is the neutral star tetrahedron. It's anchored to the physical body. This is the structural frame, and it does not rotate.
It's the anchor. Then you have the 2 dynamic fields.
Yes. The second field is the male tetrahedron. It's considered mental or electrical. And in the modern teaching, this field controls the mental or will component of the vehicle. It rotates counterclockwise relative to you looking out.
And the third?
The third is the female tetrahedron. It's emotional or magnetic. This one controls the emotional or receptive component, and it rotates clockwise.
Why is that differential rotation so necessary? Why not just spin them in the same direction?
That counter-rotation is the critical piece of engineering that generates the dynamic field. When these electrical and magnetic fields spin against each other at high velocity, they create a perfectly stable, incredibly powerful, unified energy field. It's called a toroidal field.
A toroidal field, like a donut shape or an apple core? How does that create propulsion?
The torus is the fundamental energy signature of everything in the universe. Stars, atoms, even the Earth's magnetic field. By creating a stable toroidal field around your body, the Merkaba can stabilize and contain massive amounts of energy.
So it's a container.
A container and an engine. The sources suggest this counter-rotation generates a stable point, a zero-point energy reference, which allows the field to operate independently of localized space-time constraints. And that is the mechanism for dimensional travel.
That's where the physics metaphor becomes very, very explicit. Now let's go back to that subtle detail of gender alignment, because getting this polarity right is apparently essential for the practitioner.
It is often overlooked, but it's critical for initiation. The alignment determines how the projective, the yang, and the receptive, the yin, energies actually flow.
So walk us through the male versus female alignment again. Be specific about the faces versus the points.
Okay, for males, the upward pointing, the sun tetrahedron, has its point facing forward. This is the projective output of celestial energy.
Right.
And the downward pointing, the earth tetrahedron, has a face, the flat plane, facing forward. This is the receptive input of earthly energy. So the male is generally projecting upward energy and receiving grounding energy.
And for females?
The pattern reverses on the celestial component. The upward pointing sun tetrahedron has a face facing forward. This is the receptive input of celestial energy. And the downward pointing earth tetrahedron has its point facing forward. This is the projective output of earthly energy.
Okay.
The female is generally receiving celestial energy and projecting grounding stability. This just ensures the geometric vehicle aligns with and supports the body's natural energetic polarity, ensuring maximum efficiency when the rotations begin.
So the motor is spinning, but what's the fuel? It's prana, life force energy. And the goal is to initiate what they call spherical breathing.
Spherical breathing just means drawing prana simultaneously from the cosmos, through the top of the tube, and from the earth to the bottom of the tube, and making them meet at a specific point inside that central tube.
And as you mentioned, that shift in the meeting point is a shift in consciousness.
Absolutely. For most of humanity in 3D consciousness, prana meets and centers at the navel, the solar plexus. This is the center of survival, instinct, ego.
To activate the Merkaba for ascension, you have to consciously command that meeting point to move up to the sternum.
Which corresponds to the heart chakra.
And this shift, moving from the survival center to the unity center, it fundamentally alters the entire operating system.
It moves you from third-dimensional duality and fear-based thinking into fourth-dimensional Christ consciousness, which is defined by unity and unconditional love. The sources are so clear on this. This is the most critical shift. The vehicle just won't work without this heart-centered fuel.
And what about the actual biological ignition switch? That's the pineal gland.
The pineal gland, located in the precise geometric center of the brain, is the essential biological interface. It's the third eye.
Proponents suggest that in ancient humans, this gland was much larger and fully functional, allowing for constant dimensional perception.
Right, but that modern diet, toxins, lack of use, it's caused it to calcify and atrophy in most people.
So the goal of the meditation is to use these generated light fields to hit that pineal gland directly.
Correct. The beams of prana light generated during the breathing sequences are said to pass directly through the pineal gland, reactivating its dormant potential. This stimulation causes the gland to secrete powerful neurochemicals, like DMT, which allows the brain to effectively tune in and perceive higher dimensions of reality. It is the physical key that unlocks the dimensional vehicle.
This brings us to the core of the modern Merkaba practice, the 17 breath sequence. This is a highly detailed, very precise breathwork technology. You can't skip steps, and as you stress, the prerequisite is non-negotiable.
The prerequisite is the fuel, unconditional love. It has to be established and maintained throughout the entire practice. Without this high-frequency emotional state, the geometric motor might spin, but it will remain a mechanical tool. It won't be able to access the higher dimensions, which are governed by love. The heart has to be the pilot.
Okay, the first 6 breaths, they sound like a system check, a cleansing ritual for the body's 8 electrical circuits. The detail here is fascinating. It requires coordinated hand mudras and eye movements.
This is precision work. Each breath and its accompanying mudra are specifically designed to cleanse a pair of the body's meridians or electrical circuits, releasing negative energy or blockages that have accumulated in that system.
Let's break down the mudras and the cleansing they're associated with.
Okay, so the mudras involve sequentially bringing your thumb into contact with your other fingers, 1 pair per breath.
Right.
Breaths 1 and 2. You touch your thumb to your index finger. This mudra is connected to the fear circuit and the root chakra. The intent is to release fear, especially fear related to survival and basic safety, and you pulse that energy down the spine on the exhale.
Okay, then breaths 3 and 4.
Thumb to middle finger. This relates to the sexual circuit, judgment, emotional projections. The cleansing here focuses on releasing stored trauma around sexuality and guilt, purifying the second chakra.
And 5 and 6.
Thumb to ring finger. This targets the will and power circuits. It often deals with anger, anxiety, and a sense of a lack of control. The goal is to stabilize the solar plexus and establish personal power in a balanced, heart-centered way.
And the eye movements are tied directly to this cleansing process.
Yes. On the synchronized exhale of each of those first 6 breaths, your eyes have to quickly cross, look up toward the third eye, toward the pineal, and then snap back down. This coordinated action generates a specific electrical pulse in the brain and nervous system, which proponents claim drives the negative energy down and out the base of your spine. It literally clears the circuit blockages.
If the cleaning process is that physical and intense, what happens if a person has a lot of stored trauma?
The sources are very clear that a physical response is common. Since the process is physicalizing deeply stored emotional energy, these early breaths are often where people experience initial discomfort, or physical twitches, or waves of emotion that just need to be released before they can advance.
Okay, so once the primary circuits are cleansed, Phase 2 shifts the focus entirely to establishing that constant, unified flow of prana.
And for this phase, the mudra shifts. The thumb Index and middle fingers are held together in a position that's often associated with knowledge and wisdom.
And the prana flows, meeting at the navel, our 3D consciousness center.
Exactly. The meeting of the celestial and terrestrial prana at the navel instantly ignites a small sphere of white light. With each subsequent inhalation, you visualize that sphere growing larger.
This visualization is crucial. It's not just breathing, you're actively building a geometric light field.
You are. It is active construction. The sphere grows steadily until the pivotal moment. Breath 10. On this breath, the practitioner expels the air through pursed lips, forcing the breath out with intention. This action causes the sphere to explode outward. It expands instantly to enclose the entire body.
And this encompassing field is called the sphere of Leonardo.
Right, referencing the famous drawing where the human form fits perfectly within a circle. It defines the perimeter of your physical energy body, roughly your arm span. Breaths 11, 12, and 13 are then used to stabilize and strengthen this large, encompassing sphere of light, making it a firm, protective boundary before you move into the rotational mechanics.
Breath 14 is the gate. This is the conscious choice to move from the consciousness of duality to the consciousness of unity.
This is where the pilot of the vehicle really takes control. The prana meeting point is mentally commanded to shift immediately from the navel, from survival up to the sternum. The heart, unity.
This seems like the most challenging part. It requires not just mechanical action, but a fundamental, sustained emotional and mental commitment to love and unity.
It is the moment of transcendence. The sources are extremely emphatic about the gravity of this shift. They warn that once the transition to the sternum is made, continued practice makes it irreversible. You are committing to operating from 4D Christ consciousness.
Which is why the instruction is so strong.
So strong. Do not proceed to breath 14 unless you have established a strong, clear, heart-centered connection with your higher self. You have to ensure the motivation is pure and centered in service.
And the mudra also changes one last time here to stabilize the energy.
Yes, the hands rest gently in the lap. Left palm over right for males, and right palm over left for females, completing that grounding circuit.
Okay, consciousness is locked into the heart, the energy flow is established. Now we initiate the rotation of the male and female tetrahedrons. This is where the geometry becomes dynamic.
Breath 15 is the start command. The command you give is equal speed. The male, counterclockwise, and female clockwise tetrahedrons are commanded to begin rotation at the relatively immense speed of 1/3 the speed of light. The Merkaba is officially born.
Then breath 16 introduces that very specific mathematical ratio. Based on the Fibonacci sequence, why 34 to 21? It's so specific.
The command is 3421. This ratio sets the male field spinning at 34 rotations for every 21 rotations of the female field. This differential Fibonacci ratio is claimed to be mathematically aligned with the creative forces of the universe, ensuring maximum energetic stability and acceleration.
And it accelerates the spin dramatically.
To 2/3 the speed of light.
At this massive speed, the physical energy field reacts. And this is where that famous and, frankly, highly extraordinary claim about the 55-foot disk comes in.
Indeed. The source material states that when the field reaches 2/3 the speed of light, the rotation generates an energetic, flat, horizontal disk of light measuring 55 feet in diameter at the base of your spine. It's perpendicular to the central prana tube.
A 55-foot disk.
This disk, combined with the sphere, forms the final flying saucer or hourglass-shaped energy matrix.
Okay, but 55 feet. Why that specific measurement? Is there any justification provided in the source material for that dimension?
The sources link the 55-foot diameter to the measurement of the individual nodes or units within the planetary Christ consciousness grid.
Ah, so the activated Merkaba is calibrated to be the precise size necessary to become a functional resonant node within that planetary system.
Exactly. The number 55 also appears in complex geometric divisions related to the flower of life, grounding the number in sacred geometry rather than just some arbitrary measurement. It puts the dimension into context.
It does. It's not random. It's the size required for planetary connection.
Finally, breath 17 stabilizes the vehicle. The final command sets the Merkaba's rotation at 9/10 the speed of light, which tunes it specifically to the natural vibrational frequency of the third dimension. The field is now stable, active, and fully resonant with the environment, ready to be programmed.
And the 18th breath, the legendary secret breath.
The 18th breath is referred to as the ascension breath. It involves commanding the speed to exceed the speed of light. If that's achieved, the practitioner is claimed to be capable of disappearing from this dimension entirely, moving into the fifth or higher dimensions.
But it's not taught.
It's not taught in any formal practice. It must be achieved spontaneously when guided by your higher self, signaling that the time for physical ascension has arrived.
This journey has been so intensely mechanical and personal so far, but now we have to move to the global impact. If I activate this precise vehicle, what is the purpose? How does this light body change the reality around me?
Okay, to simplify the move from mechanics to manifestation, let's use the analogy we established earlier. The human being is a biological smartphone.
Right. The body, the ba, is the hardware. It's beautifully designed, but pretty useless if it's not connected.
And the spirit, the Ka, is the user, the intelligence directing the hardware. Most importantly, the brain is like the local hard drive. It's stuck running old, limited 3D programming based on past memory and ego survival.
And the activated Merkaba, with its counter-rotating fields and its 55-foot disk, that's the Wi-Fi antenna.
Precisely. Before activation, most people are operating in a low-frequency, localized data mode. Let's call it airplane mode.
I like that.
The 17-breath meditation sequence is the complex protocol you need to turn off airplane mode, align the antenna, and log into the highest available network. And the password, which dictates the quality of your connection, has to be love, emanating from the heart center.
So connecting to this planetary grid, the activated Merkaba doesn't just create a personal field, it acts as an amplifier and a tuning fork for the whole global system.
Right. The source material details the existence of the Christ consciousness grid.
What exactly is this grid, and where is it located?
It's described as a vast, high-frequency geometric structure. It's composed of interwoven dodecahedral and icosahedral patterns, and is located about 60 miles above the Earth's surface.
And its purpose.
It holds the vibrational frequency of unity consciousness, of compassion, of unconditional love. It's the blueprint for the next level of human evolution, the 4D reality.
So if humanity is still operating largely on a 3D grid of duality and separation and fear, this higher grid is just waiting to be powered up.
Exactly. When an individual activates their Merkaba, they instantly come online as a highly stable, high-powered node within this grid. They add power and coherence to the network.
It's the 100th monkey effect.
It's the mathematical manifestation of the 100th monkey effect. The concept is that when a critical mass of individuals activates this field, the collective energy they generate triggers a powerful harmonic resonance within the grid.
And that resonance, according to the teaching, is what catalyzes the planetary shift. It pulls the collective consciousness out of fragmentation and duality and moves it toward unity and co-creation.
The collective field becomes so coherent that it disrupts lower vibrational fields, disinformation, fear-based control systems, all that chaotic energy. By achieving individual sovereignty and radiating that high frequency, you're stabilizing the collective field. You're essentially installing a planetary operating system upgrade.
Okay, so if my personal Merkaba is now a node in this unity grid, how do I actually use it to actively manifest or co-create my reality?
This is where that heart-centered instruction is paramount. The Merkaba, as a biocomputer, has no ethical filter. It has no will of its own. It just executes the program given by the consciousness that's residing in the heart.
So if the heart is generating fear, the Merkaba amplifies fear. If it's generating love,
it amplifies love. So the formula, as you put it, is clear intention plus heart-centered love plus an activated Merkaba manifestation. But you have to speak the command to the field itself.
You do?
Yes. You formulate an intention, ideally one that's aligned with the highest good or heart-centered service, and you speak or you project that command mentally to the field while you're in the activated state. The Merkaba then amplifies that frequency and projects it into the probability matrix of the world, aligning circumstances, people, and events accordingly.
The sources talked about two main types of programming. We should make sure the listener understands both approaches.
Good point. The first is proactive, or yang, programming. This involves highly detailed, task-specific affirmations and commands. For example, I program the Merkaba field to filter out all negative, low-frequency input and only allow synchronicity and love to enter my experience. You're building a specific protective barrier.
Okay, and the second, the receptive or yin approach.
That uses open-ended affirmations that allow for synchronicity and cosmic flow. For instance, I program the Merkaba to align my external reality with the internal intent of abundance and service in ways that serve my highest destiny. This allows the universe to fill in the blanks rather than you forcing a specific outcome. This whole process transforms the individual from a passive receiver of reality into an active, high-frequency participant in creation.
We've covered a lot. History, geometry, mechanics, planetary function. Before we wrap up, let's just address the practical tools that are used in the modern movement and provide that necessary critical balance.
Right. So the conceptual Merkaba often finds a physical counterpart in the form of crystal Merkavahs.
These are the three-dimensional star tetrahedron shapes carved from natural gemstones like quartz, amethyst, hematite.
And they function primarily as a visualization tool. They help the practitioner mentally anchor the geometry during that complex 17-breath meditation.
But they're also said to be an energetic focal point.
They are. Certain crystals, like quartz, are piezoelectric. They generate electricity when they're compressed. So proponents believe that when you hold them during meditation, these crystalline Merkavahs amplify and harmonize your energy fields. They provide a physical anchor for the light vehicle you're creating internally. People also use them extensively in crystal grids for manifestation work.
And if someone listening decides they want to get one of these, how do they verify authenticity? I imagine the commercialization of this has led to a lot of fakes.
Oh, absolutely. The authenticity check is really about making sure the crystal is natural, not some synthetic resin or glass. Authentic Merkabahs, especially when they're carved from high-density stones like quartz, will have natural inclusions, color variations, and they should feel cool and substantial to the touch. Fakes are often lightweight, perfectly clear with no inclusions, and they warm up really quickly in your hand.
And the commercial reality is that this knowledge is now widely disseminated through professional training programs. It's become a marketable skill.
Yes, there are now formal certification courses, often run by organizations that are derived from the original teachings, that train individuals to become certified Merkaba activators or teachers. It's a way to ensure the disciplined transmission of the 17-breath technique.
Okay, let's clarify some expectations. The sources stress that the Merkaba is a universal, non-denominational spiritual technology. It's accessible to anyone. But what are the key myths that need to be cleared up?
The main misconception is that it offers instant enlightenment or supernatural powers upon your first practice. It is a universal birthright, but it is a consistent, diligent practice.
Yeah.
It requires patience and dedication over months or even years. The immediate benefits are often quite subtle: improved energy, better focus, not dimensional travel on day one.
And crucially, we have to reiterate the warnings. They echo the explicit dangers found in the ancient Jewish Hekhalot literature. The activation isn't always a blissful, floaty experience.
The sources are very clear about the possibility of a detoxification phase. As the light field spins up and cleanses old energy from your cells, practitioners may experience a variety of uncomfortable symptoms.
Like what?
Flu-like aches, overwhelming fatigue, sensory disorientation like dizziness or buzzing, or sudden emotional fluctuations as stored trauma and cellular memory get released.
It sounds like an energetic purge.
It is. And the safety precaution remains paramount. If a practitioner experiences intense anxiety, panic attacks, or severe dissociation, they must stop the practice immediately. They need to ground themselves and process the emotional blockage before they attempt the advanced breaths again. The Merkaba amplifies whatever's in the field, so emotional readiness is the ultimate form of safety.
Finally, let's apply the critical lens that a true deep dive demands. Despite all the extraordinary geometric precision and the claims of specific light speeds, what is the hard scientific validation for the Merkaba?
In short, there is currently no rigorous, peer-reviewed scientific evidence that validates the existence of the Merkaba as a physically measurable light object.
Nor its extraordinary claims about teleportation, dimensional travel, or the physical formation of a 55-foot disk.
Exactly.
So the reported benefits, reduced stress, enhanced well-being, improved intuition, these are real, but they fall within the domain of subjective experience, of psychology, and the verifiable effects of meditation on neurobiology and heart coherence.
That's the balanced view. While proponents often cite speculative connections, for example, they'll reference HeartMath Institute research on how human heart fields affect one another, or quantum field theories. These are correlations used to suggest plausibility, not empirical proof of the Merkaba's complex mechanics or its extraordinary speed claims.
So science can validate the power of intention in coherent energy fields, but not the geometric structure or the speeds required for dimensional shifts.
Right. The scientific community requires measurable, repeatable data, and the Merkaba, at its most advanced level, currently operates outside that measurable paradigm. It remains, for now, a powerful, precise spiritual technology, a geometric framework for intense internal transformation.
We've taken the full journey, from Ezekiel's fiery, terrifying chariot to the modern, accessible, breath-based, counter-rotating light body. We've defined the Merkaba as the vehicle for the light spirit body, a mechanism fueled entirely by unconditional love residing in the heart.
I think the essential takeaway is that the value of this practice is twofold. First, achieving self-mastery, the balancing of your personal polarities. And second, establishing protection, creating a stable, coherent energy field that filters out all that chaotic collective noise.
And this personal stability is the prerequisite for planetary service.
It is.
By activating your individual field to two-thirds the speed of light and beyond, you become a powerful node in the planetary unity grid, contributing to the collective ascension to fourth-dimensional consciousness. The blueprint has been recovered, and the instruction manual is now available.
And perhaps the most compelling societal implication the source material suggests is that true Merkaba activation leads to sovereignty. It creates individuals who are fundamentally less susceptible to external manipulation, to disinformation, to control systems, because their truth is sourced internally from the heart.
Which raises our final provocative thought for you to carry forward. If the key to planetary transformation is individual sovereignty, achieved through geometric light activation and heart-centered coherence, what specific external structures, be they social, political, or economic, would simply cease to function if global consciousness achieved this level of independent, heart-centered coherence? What systems rely entirely on fragmentation and spiritual disconnection for their survival? Ponder that until our next deep dive.